Welcome to the sneak peek into the secrets of a successful product management executive. It's a mini-MBA in profitable product management. This course is all about how to become a successful product manager. So if you're interested in product management practice, or if you were ever wondering, well, what the heck is this product management position supposed to mean? And is there a really wonderful overview of what product management involves on a day-to-day basis? Whether you are new or intermediate or experienced, for anyone new to product management, this course is a great resource for knowing what to expect and will provide practical tools and tips on how to handle different aspects of product management. It's recommended for you if you're just starting out, or as a refresher for those looking for reminders or guidance on what to do and when. And it's also good for founders or budding entrepreneurs. So what is this? This video is a sneak peek preview into the product management course. It's a very honest and real practitioner's perspective and guide to product management. You will nod in recognition at many of the challenges and situations presented here, and you'll come away from this course with practical approaches that you can use to tackle the challenges you face. It will show you how to ensure you get a clear view of the priorities in the role. You're not just going to go through the motions of the course and then shelve it. You'll get clear tools and examples of what to do throughout the life cycle of your product. And you'll have lesson summaries to help you remember and apply the techniques. It is your genuine game changer for product management mastery, and it'll give you a sense of direction. And you can learn for yourself how product management should be done right. It's jam-packed with product management best practices. There's no fluff. You can apply the learnings and toolkits straight away in your role, and your life as a product manager will be much easier with this course. It's a handy guide to get good answers and ideas on how to tackle problems you bump into. It explains how everything in your product manager life is connected. It provides context. It explains how every product manager and team is different. It gives you tools to determine exactly what things you must figure out with your team so that you can perform better at work. So that you can get a better idea of this course, it is split into two main parts, each subdivided into sessions. The first session is about your role and responsibilities as a product manager, how you can get the basics right, getting your strategy thinking right, how to develop new products, how to manage existing products and ranges. In part 2, you'll learn how to present, promote, and support your product, how to make the right pricing decisions, how to optimize sales, logistics, and after sales, how to perform powerful channel management, how to develop a sound product and brand plan, how to perform internationalization of markets and brands, and also about the future of product management and range profitability management. And there is also a bonus so that you can get your own free copy of the Profitable Market Mapping Report. And I want to ask you a favor. If you like this video, if you find it interesting, be sure to click the thumbs up for this video. If instead you think something is missing, then just drop me a quick note so that I can address it in future updates. And be sure to click subscribe so that you can get updates. This video covers the first session about your role and responsibilities. How has the role developed? What does the job involve? What are the key tasks that you will face in your role and your responsibilities? And what about the responsibilities versus authority mismatch? What is it and how do you handle this? And how can you identify the interfaces that you must manage? And how do organizations measure their product managers? You may have wondered, where did the product management role actually come from? How did it arise? And that's just so that you can put your activities in a wider context. The role developed because growing businesses wanted to maintain focus on key areas, and it is essentially a 20th and 21st century organizational response to the challenges of how to manage effectively those key areas. The first adopters were in the FMCG industries, fast-moving consumer goods, and that then spread to other industries for other consumer industries, and later industrial and business to business, and later on into service businesses and high-tech and platform. So why product management? Well, the reason for the almost universal adoption of some form of product management is that it works as a system. It allows single-minded entrepreneurial focus and business performance of each product line group, including new products and smaller lines. It also provides a core of specialists in their expertise and information on the product and the changing requirements of its marketplace. And it provides a market-centered and integrating influence across your company. So this means that when you have strong functional links right across your company, then you can secure a good long-term future for the business. And what does the job actually involve? As a product manager, you're responsible in full or in part for development and business performance of your product. And you're the expert on the product and its market. And you also plan and manage all activities to support the product. And you're the custodian, both in short and medium and long-term thinking. And this means that you are the recognized in-company champion for your product. One of the really interesting things about the product management role for you is that you'll have a lot of interfaces to manage. And those can be either internal or external. Internally, you will have peer groups, you will have your management and senior management, and you'll have your departments and company functions. Externally, there are lots of interfaces such as agencies, specialists, alliances, system providers, tech partners, suppliers, trade contacts, and OEMs. These may be relevant for some and less relevant for others. It really depends. And last but not least, you'll have your customers, but more on these interfaces later. Now think about this for a moment regarding the role development stages and where are you and your role in these stages. One way to think about this is that the role can develop from a purely support role to a coordinator role to a product champion and ultimately as a mini president role. And it's very much possible for you, even if you start more towards a support role, to over time move towards becoming a mini president or a mini managing director for your product, provided that you do take the right steps and do the right things, which we'll be showing you here in this course. Now, different role types also enjoy markedly different levels of authority, which we'll be looking at in a moment in these areas, as you can see illustrated here. But other than product champions slowing a slightly, but not significantly, higher rating than the mini presidents or mini managing directors, then the pattern is quite clear with steps in authority between each level of role. Now, there is a problem that's very familiar to anyone working in product management, and it has existed as long as the role itself, And you may have come across this yourself also already. And that is the difference or the mismatch between responsibility and the authority that you're given. And basically the issues are twofold. First, there is a vertical dimension. The whole idea of product management is to push responsibility for running the product line down to middle or even relatively junior management. But how far does this delegation go? Does the decision-making or sign-off authority really go with it? And what specific areas of responsibility does this apply to? And the second dimension arises because as a product manager, you also have to operate horizontally across many other functions, and you'll often deal with considerably senior or more experienced colleagues in these departments. In both cases, this may cause conflict with the established power structures and your authority in your business.
Hello, Peter. What's happening? We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah. You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all TPS reports now before they go out. Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah. I have the memo right here. I just forgot. But it's not shipping out till tomorrow, so there's no problem.
Yeah. If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great. And I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo. Okay?
Yeah, no, I
Bye-bye,
have
Peter.
the memo. I've got it. It's right.
Hello, Phil.
So how much power is really delegated within organizations? The truth is, often it's actually very little. And in large companies, there will be huge hierarchies and therefore many levels that you find yourself in. And bureaucracy can easily take over, as we saw on that video clip. So this means that you and many other product managers, your influence or authority really often stops at the recommend level. You're recommending, you're not able to actually give straight orders. And even in smaller organizations, you still need approval. It's often quicker, more informal, but you still need the approval. Now, how can you win more authority? Let's think about this for a moment. You can actually think of authority as a way of having power, broadly speaking. And classically, you have 5 main sources of power. Power is really nothing but the possession of authority and influence and certain skill over others within your organization. So let's look at these more closely. You have legitimate power, reward power, expert power, referent power, and coercive power. Legitimate power is also known as positional power. So as the name suggests, legitimate power is the power that you hold in the organization because of your position, and that's considered to be legitimate. Reward power arises out of the authority that you hold to recognize and reward people. Expert power, as the name suggests, is the kind of power that you have due to your knowledge and expertise that you have. This is why we'll be getting into that later on in more detail. Referent power is resulting from the personality that you have, the relationships that you develop with your co-workers and colleagues and people within your organization. And last, coercive power is the power that you would hold in order to coerce or threaten someone. Perhaps not the best power to motivate someone. Now, there are other additional sources of power that others have identified, such as information power and connection power. Now, information power is where a person possesses needed or wanted information. So perhaps that's more like the expert power mentioned earlier. And connection power is where you attain influence by gaining favor or simply having acquaintance with someone powerful within your organization. And there are different outcomes of using these different sources of power, different consequences. For legitimate and reward power, you typically gain a form of compliance. When you exercise expert or referent power, you tend to get commitment. With coercive power, the best you can probably get is going along with what's requested, but probably in most organizations you'll get some form of resistance or even passive resistance. But I think it's very important to realize here that these points apply particularly in terms of not just your immediate boss, whom you should continuously seek to convince that you can handle more and more of the job with more and more informal supervision. Now, in terms of higher management, you need to probably tread a more dangerous line here. But what I've found is that if you can convince your superiors and others that you have the right program, then you'll have a lot of de facto authority. If you can't, then you'll have no or little authority. Ultimately, it is broad management support that serves as the product manager's ace in the hole, so that you can function effectively without having official authority in all situations. Remember earlier we were looking at the interfaces to be managed, and we can simplify that a little bit just for now and look at this from a slightly simpler perspective. So let's look at these one by one. In your links with technical colleagues, you'll sometimes find that unless you are from a technical background yourself, there is a bit of culture gap intruding here sometimes. And that's of course because your technical colleagues would tend to have a more technical view versus your more business and marketing centered view. We will delve further and deeper into this in session 4 when we look at your role in the new product development process. But outside of R&D links, there are many specialist technical functions such as packaging or quality, where you have to work very effectively with the experts and lay down specifications or handle problems or potential improvements. But I think the key point here is for you to understand and also anticipate where your technical colleagues are coming from, understand their technical views, and make an effort to appreciate them and to make your points in a business sense. In most organizations, your links with operational departments, you'll need to deal with a number of separate functions, all with their own priorities. Your main contact here will tend to be production or factory management, or with a specialist product planning section. As with your technical links, this is an environment where efficiency is really important, and technical merit and certainty. Those are the key words and key concepts describing that environment. And you'll find that letting production know as far in advance about possible seasonal patterns, specific deals you've made, promotions, will help them in their operations. Letting your colleagues know in sufficient time and consulting with them about any product or packaging design, and also being flexible about the balance between holding low stocks, for instance, and having efficient and uninterrupted production runs. It's a very important department to have good links with. In your links with agencies, in most companies, you as the individual product manager may or may not have discretion or full choice over the agency, but your relationship with the agency for all significantly branded products is very significant, and your involvement will be quite substantial. Some people spend a day a week, around 20% of their time with their agencies. And your spending is also likely to be substantial. Now, we'll be looking at this more closely in a later session, But the important thing here is how you can optimize that relationship. And some businesses, such as business to business or industrial market companies, tend to have generally perhaps less extensive involvement, where the involvement is more intermittent. For your links with the marketplace, they tend to be more extensive and more time consuming for product managers in industrial markets. Many industrial markets are also more complex and involving multi-level relationships with intermediaries and systems providers, professional advisors, and so on. And for instance, in defense industries or telecoms and other markets, government links may need to be maintained by the product manager alongside or in support of sales or technical colleagues. In consumer markets, you as the product manager will almost certainly be involved in regular contact with and presentations to major trade partners, retail, wholesale groups where relationships are being developed. But what's very important is for any market that you're in is that you have some form of contact with end customers, either directly or indirectly. In your links with sales functions, you have a wide range of links that you'll need to maintain with the sales force itself, many at sales management level. And you'll find that whether you have a single sales force or one split or segmented by market type, the issues are really widely the same. It's almost like winning the hearts and minds battles for a proper share of sales attention for your product. You need to see it that development priorities, timescales, and specific activities must conform with your plan and that they're executed properly. And sales management can therefore be useful contributors to your understanding of product and pricing requirements. And there's lots of first-hand experience of that works. It's not always objective, but it really pays to get views on promotion deals, point of sales actions, activities, and so on. So talk directly with your salespeople, not just managers. Get it straight from the horse's mouth and get as many perspectives as possible so that you can get color and nuances rather than just black and white figures. And in that process, field visits, so go and see for yourself. It won't be helpful only for you directly. It'll also motivate your salespersons to see what you take a direct and genuine interest in and what's going on. Now, your link with admin functions will invariably typically be mostly the finance department by and large. Other than finance, you may have some contact with other admin functions, such as personnel or HR, and maybe your legal department for things such as trademarks and major contracts. There is a little bit of a word of caution here. There are some organizations, and you may find yourself in one of these, where the company is very financially driven, and you could sometimes see that as a bit of a bean counters type of establishment. And in those establishments, the finance departments have substantial powers of veto or challenge in areas of spending. So sometimes finance links can be a little bit vexed. They can have veto powers, and you might find that finance people often tend to have a bit of an audit mentality that can be time consuming, but also sometimes a useful approach. The key here is to make allies by using the power bases that we looked at earlier. Mostly the finance interface will contain factors such as developing product costings and reviewing the impact of forced cost changes or changes that you wish to push through yourself, for instance, package changing, and setting or changing prices, discount schemes, evaluating forecasts and budgets, planning processes, monitoring sales, spending and profit, and tracking your product stock and debtor levels. Debtors will only apply if you have a freestanding customer base where you may also be drawn into liaison on credit limits and so forth. Investment appraisal, new product proposals, and least, of course, not last but not least, getting your expenses paid. In your links with corporate and general management, many multinationals operate corporate or international product managers, and these may be just a staff function that you need to liaise with, but in many other cases they may have considerable power over areas such as products, pricing, or brand policy, and you have to listen a bit more closely. Likewise, both in European and American and in other multinationals, there can be very strict branding detail control. So even in these areas, if your ideas and arguments or proposals are strong enough, you can often win them over, just as happened with many examples. The key here is that you need to adopt a way where you can create a successful plan that will get you the smiles and applause in the conference room. Now, what I recommend is early on in your role, identify some suitable quick wins. Not necessarily easy wins, but early wins, problems where you can early on show success. And in many companies, there are also variously called skip meetings where you have an opportunity to meet senior managers in an informal settings. So prepare well for all such situations and occasions, as they are not so informal as they seem and offer many opportunities for you to create the right kind of impression and build trust. And how are you as a product manager measured? You have to do the job well. But not only that, you and your performance has to be recognized by your manager and by your organization. So there is a potential negative side to that, but there is also a major opportunity. You have a highly visible position, so you're in constant appraisal. If instant results are expected, unrealistically, this can of course be a huge challenge. We will look at this later, but here are some of the traps to avoid. Cutting costs or investment in vital areas, such as marketing research, R&D, and promotional support, or compromising on your targeting and positioning to seek to attract a wider business base, or going too far down the brand extension path and weakening your core business in that process, or spending too much of your advertising budget tactically, or pushing prices up too high so that you improve short-term profit, yes, but you damage share position or perceptions of value in the process for the longer run, or putting too much emphasis on price-cutting channels, which may provide volume, but it can also damage your image. So you have to be aware of these, but even more importantly, you have to have the artillery ready, the arguments ready, and be able to manage them carefully. I've actually seen some colleagues who were really happy to keep a low profile, go along with the conventional company wisdom. But I would say that if you are serious about attaining general management in your career, then you have to think and behave like a general management perspective as early as possible. And for this, you really need to have a high level of strategic awareness and the courage to fight your corner and win when it really matters. And you should, of course, choose your battles, but if handled well, doing this really should mark you out for higher things. And what are the typical measurements that we find in product management? Well, it ranges, and there is definitely a trend going from laissez-faire to a more qualitative or more quantitative measurement. If you're really confident of your ability, you want your responsibilities to grow, you should be constantly trying to push the basis of your measurement to the right. In terms of the output being measured also, you should ensure that this reflects your true current responsibility, but be seeking to move down this particular scale. And some have argued that measurement of individual product managers shouldn't go beyond gross profit or your contribution to profit after controllable costs. This is probably the optimal measurement for product champions and even many mini presidents or mini managing directors, because beyond this, you're often being held accountable for costs or activities that you don't actually control. However, This hasn't stopped some organizations taking measurement right down to net profit, or even return on assets or return on capital employed. If you are in this situation of full profit responsibility, then there are a number of obvious problems that you need to be aware of. Allocations of general costs or overheads being applied to your product, are they realistic? Do they fairly reflect the resources required to support your product? If your measurement is down to return on assets or return on capital employed, this also involves issues of effective asset management. Are you fully involved in all significant investment decisions that affect your fixed assets? And on current assets, do you have sufficient control of stock and debtor policy as it affects your product? And are you fully involved in ongoing key decisions in these areas? So whether you are profit responsible or not, many of your decisions will have significant implications for the profit performance of your product. These and more factors will be covered in session 7 when we look closely at certain key aspects of pricing. But first, a quick recap. We have now gone through the first part of this course about your role and responsibilities, how the role developed, what the job involves, what are the key tasks, what about the responsibilities and authority mismatch, how to identify the interfaces to be managed, and how do organizations measure you and product managers. And that's just part of the whole course, which consists of 2 main blocks, part 1 and also part 2. And this is all available to you as a fully comprehensive course. But first, a request from me. I would like to take your advice. I need your advice, your questions on product management. I'm putting together the finishing touches on this course that's all about perfecting product management. I don't want to leave anything out. So, will you let me know your biggest question or questions about product management? This could be anything. Even if you think it's a bit silly or already covered, let me know in the questionnaire on the link below. In exchange for your answers, I will send you a gift, which is a 50% discount on the first part of the course. This should be ready in a few weeks. Get your discount, go to the link now, and I look forward to hearing from you so that I can get back to you. Thank you very much.